I found it. I found the button.
Tom, where's the
There it is. Boom. Welcome back to the show, Therapy Unzipped. Good to see you, Brett.
nice to see you, Tom.
Well, we had an interesting discussion right before we hit the record, as soon as I found the record button. But today we said we were going to talk about some couples things, and I have something that I use quite a bit in couple sessions, and I wanted to kind of go through it. And I think it's very valuable, and I think it can help people not just in romantic relationships, but also, friendships and interactions that they have.
All right.
These things pop up all the time, and as soon as we mention them and talk about them, I know you're going to
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh yes, I've done this, or I've seen this, or this
Mm-hmm.
is currently going on in my relationship." And we need to stamp them out. We need to do our best to rectify those so that they don't show up because they bring about death and destruction to the
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
And let
And
me jump in before you get into that is, when we talk about couples counseling, couples therapy, that kind of thing, not every counselor is built to do couples. Couples is a very kind of specialized kind of thing. And, all therapists are like general practitioners. They can do the basics.
yeah,
But if you are going to jump into couples counseling for and usually when you do, you have some significant communication issues going on. Really look for kind of someone that specializes or has good experience working with couples, because not all counselors are built the same with that. And I'll
mhm,
give you myself as a great example. I have some training in couples, but it's not what I enjoy. I don't like doing it. I have done it. Um, I think I've done it mildly successful, but just pay attention to that. And the other thing that gets with couples counseling, and I think we're going to reiterate this a few times, is people usually come to couples counseling when it's too late, when
yeah,
someone's already made the decision that this relationship is over. Don't do that, right? Because they're
right,
you're just people are just checking a box. Like, I've
yes,
done this, I've done that, I've consulted a divorce attorney, and the one of the last boxes on the list is go to couples counseling.
right.
You
Too
know,
late.
too late. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when they say, well, couples counseling didn't work for me, well, it was either not the right counselor
Yeah.
or it was not the right time for you guys in your relationship. Maybe it was too old. When that apple's been sitting on the counter for 9 months, you can't save it anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Dead.
Exactly. Right. And
Uh,
if you're coming too late and you've already either subconsciously or consciously made up your mind and this is the last box to check, you're not going to do the required assignments, homework,
mm,
engage in the strategies with which, or you'll half-ass it to really show, hey, I tried, but it really didn't work. Well, you tried it for 2 minutes, it's not going to work. It needs to be a reoccurring, repetitive thing, and so
yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, that happens often. They come in when it's too far gone, and it's just like you say, just checking a box. And yeah, this
Yeah.
is not going to work. And of course, if the therapist is more, I see this happen where a therapist starts seeing a client, and then they determine couples counseling would be good, and then they start seeing the couple, and that's kind of a no-no. I've done it, and I can be impartial, and I at least express that I'm impartial, and I spend substantial time with the partner as well, so that we all feel like aligned, and I'm there for them. Then we're moving into this new territory, and maybe they need to see privately some other counselor, or vice versa. But it gets a little sticky. It's very hard to do, and I do it, and I think I've done it relatively well, but I definitely do not recommend that. I think good to have a primary couples counselor and then individual therapists. And even if
Mm,
you feel like it's all your partner's fault, I think you still going to individual therapy is
mm.
critical too. Anyway, just wanted to
And
mention.
I always recommend that people do their individual work with the individual counselor before they get involved with marital counseling, if it works. Sometimes
Yeah.
that doesn't work. Sometimes at the stage of the relationship it doesn't work that way. But because a marriage or a relationship is like a cake. You need the best sugar and the best flour to come
Yeah.
together to make the best cake. And if you're dragging all your own garbage into couples counseling, it doesn't work.
here's something that is really, really helpful. Not that it has to occur, but I've found it to be tremendously beneficial. If the therapists know each other and can collaborate on
Mhm.
treatment, and the clients are willing and give permission for clinicians to talk amongst themselves about
Mhm.
the case, that can be really helpful. So if I have, I'm doing a couples counseling, but I also, they're going to individual therapy with somebody that, I know and trust. I can, and they give me permission, I can talk with them so that it coincides, right? It complements each other. So the work
Mhm.
that this person is doing individually, um,
Mhm.
I'm privy to, and I can, support that and bolster that in the couple's work instead of it. A lot of times it ends up being butting heads, I'm doing one thing about communication or about the Four Horsemen, which we're going to talk about today, and then they're doing something on heavy duty trauma, and it's like, well, this person is exhausted and tapped. They can't engage in, they can't feed the relationship because they're trying to heal and feed themselves, and get, anyway.
Right.
So
And let's get back to the tenet of what counseling or therapy is. It's not about the hour you spend with your counselor a week, right? That's the base, right? The where the therapy happens is what happens in all those other hours between the
yeah,
1 hour sessions with your
right.
counselor. How much have you thought about what you talked about? How much have you practiced techniques? How much of you time and energy have you invested in working on whatever goals that you guys have established? So that's what counseling and therapy is, not the
Yeah.
hour a week you're sitting on somebody's couch or chair.
Right, that's just the guide or the instruction manual, but it's not going
Mhm.
to help you put the new adjustable bench together.
Right. You go to a class and you listen to a lecture for an hour, but what do you do outside of class? You read the book, you read the manual, you do the homework, you
Right.
practice the inter.
Yeah.
So,
Because if you just go to that class and you never look at the material again or never critically apply it to your life or what you're doing, then what's the point?
right.
So I think that's an educational piece that we need to provide as therapists that, like you said, what really happens regarding positive change is everything that happens outside of this office. This is just like, here are some tips and tricks. Go
Right.
try them out,
So, yeah. And then come back and tell me if you had success or not had success.
Yeah. And there's a
But
lot of people
how,
that,
like, Tom, how many times this never happens, right? So how many times have you sat in front of somebody and said, "Hey, we talked about X, Y, and Z. We're going to practice these things. How did that go?" Oh,
well,
I didn't do it.
I forgot what my homework was. I get that.
What was I
What
supposed to do
was I
again?
supposed to do? Well, I don't know. Why we even talk about it?
Mhm. Okay.
Because,
Hey, let me guess. You're not feeling better, right?
yeah, right. Yeah.
Surprise.
Nothing has changed. Yeah. Well, okay.
Oh,
Um,
well, yeah,
but we get
well,
that. I mean, it's hard to make changes. It's, we engage in our habits, good, bad, or indifferent. And so changing those habits take some work.
well, Tom, when you and I invent the fairy dust that we just sprinkle on people for an hour a week and then their life changes miraculously, we're going to be billionaires,
I can't wait. Huzzah! I've been trying it out in my kitchen, but have been unsuccessful.
right? That damn glitter is just everywhere.
It's all over the place. Yeah.
It's funny. Couples, Tom. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah. So let's get into this from Gottman, I believe the gentleman's name was.
Mm.
Psychologist, psychiatrist, psychologist. I don't know. Anyway,
One of the
part of like
gurus.
family systems, couples work. This is something that I go over with couples. Usually, like I don't know, second or third session, we start other places, kind of feel them out, see where they're at, see what's going on, see how they interact with each other, and then this is something that if I feel like they can handle to throw out there, and it's very helpful. And I kind of suss that out if they end up engaging in some of the simple homework, like, you need to have a conversation for 30 minutes every day where you turn off all your devices and just sit face to face and talk about your day. Tell me the story about your day. Tell me any concerns that you have. Find a way to validate each other. And maybe if there's a concern, you brainstorm solutions. And I kind of go over that. And if they're engaging in that, then this is sort of like the second or third level to go to. we talk about these things because, it involves some ability to recognize and identify when these things are showing up and then to make some course corrections. And it's not going to happen overnight, of course. But anyway, these are the Four Horsemen. And it's very similar to the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. A lot of people out there are pretty hip to, the Revelations, Four Horsemen. The white, red, black, and pale horse that represents in order pestilence, war, famine, and then death. And so, similar to those, we have the Four Horsemen in relationships. And so, let's kind
I
of
thought we were going to turn off the news and not watch the apocalypse unfold in front of us. Oh, wait, never mind. I'm sorry.
right. Aside from that, what you're saying?
Mhm. So the Four Horsemen, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Other than that, Mrs.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the theater?
Yeah. It seems like it's common, huh? Seems like this is real deal. Anyway, okay. So in relationships, these
In
four
relation.
horsemen are criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling. And actually, we can probably
Mhm.
switch the stonewalling and contempt because if the pale horse represents death, contempt is really the thing that happens. So these things show up. Criticism, we start to blame each other when we feel like we're being attacked. We start to engage in some put downs.
Mhm.
We start to point out where they're wrong instead of using I statements and talking about your emotions and talking about your concerns and how to work through those concerns. You just start, throwing daggers at the other person.
But at least I didn't. But you always.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, the kitchen is a mess. You're a slob,
Hmm.
right? Where the antidote, so to speak, would be to have more open communication and express, I feel like the kitchen is a mess and it's causing some anxiety for me. Can we work on this together? What needs to be accomplished? Is it something that you can do? Should we do this together? Is it something that I need to do? How do we solve this problem together instead of throwing daggers at one person? Because then it's just the one person is to blame and they're always to blame and you're the reason, and then they become they're the victim of
Hmm.
their partner, and it's met with, from the other partner's perspective who's being criticized, the second horse, which is defensiveness. And this is where, like the red horse of the apocalypse, war, this is when we start having arguments because then they get defensive. Well, it's not my fault. It's because you did X, Y, and Z. And they start throwing
Hmm.
criticisms back instead of taking accountability. And then nobody's taking accountability. Um, I wasn't my fault that you yelled. You were the one who was late,
Hmm.
like you were the one who didn't respond back to my 18 text messages.
Right.
This is why I slept with the neighbor. Joking. But but they get defensive and they make excuses for the behavior, and the blame always gets shifted to their partner. So criticism and then defensiveness, not necessarily in order, but kind of in a way. Usually we see the criticism first, then the
Hmm.
defensiveness. So then I'm going in order. So this would require, as an antidote to that, finding ways to take responsibility and accountability for
Hmm.
what you yourself are doing. You can't control the other person, and putting
Hmm.
blame on them, getting defensive, criticizing, throwing a dagger at them is not going to help the relationship. So you
Hmm.
yourself can say, you know what, I was late, and I can appreciate how that may have caused a bit of panic, confusion, suffering, pain in
Hmm.
you. I'm going to take responsibility for that and leave it there. Don't be like, but then you did X, Y, and Z,
Hmm.
just leave it there. Allow your partner to take accountability and responsibility.
And, the other trap that couples fall into is even when um, it's hard to take responsibility for something specific. And let's just use the kitchen example, right? You're a slob, you always leave the kitchen a mess. Well, it seems like in relationships, one person's usually the neat person, one person's usually the not neat person, right? So in that argument, you can't, you don't, but I'm not a mess and I can't take responsibility because I always leave cleanup behind myself and whatever. And
Yeah.
that may be true, but don't fall into that trap of, we're stuck on this topic. So take responsibility for what your shortcomings are.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not responsible generally for the mess left in the kitchen, but I spend too much money and I'm always late. So I can't take responsible for that. I can
Right.
take responsibility for that.
Yeah,
But people get stuck on that one thing,
they do.
right? I can't take responsibility for being a mess because I'm not. So it's not
Yeah.
me. It's all her. It's all him. It's all them.
You know what? I raised my voice because I feel like I wasn't being heard, and I apologize for that. When can we carve out time to really listen to each other? I
Hmm.
want to listen to you, and I need you to listen to me. And, how do we go about that? Do we take turns? Do I get Tuesdays and you get Wednesdays? Whatever.
Hmm.
I mean, there are so many options that we can be
Right.
creative with it that I have been with couples in here. And when they do that, things magically turn around. Okay,
Hmm.
so Four Horsemen, the apocalypse, and relationship. So, criticism, which is
Hmm.
conquest or pestilence, which is like what the white horse of the
Hmm.
apocalypse. This is when we want to challenge and overcome our partner by putting them down in some way. Defensiveness, which is the red horse of the apocalypse, or war. This is where we start really engaging in fighting and anger and that back and forth, and nothing is really getting accomplished. The third horse, which is the black horse of the apocalypse, which is famine. Um, this is where we end up engaging in the cold shoulder or stonewalling. We remove ourselves, maybe physically, emotionally, from the relationship. We don't engage in talking with the other person. They ask us a question and we just walk away, go into the other room. And this becomes so frustrating for the partner because I mean, it's just like I don't know what they're thinking, I don't know what they're feeling. What are they planning in their head? Are they planning a divorce? Are they seeing somebody else, And then they get to the person who's stonewalling gets to avoid having difficult conversations.
Hmm.
Oh, well, how great for you. You just don't have to deal with it because you're just not talking. Or you're not coming home from work, you're coming home really late. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
famine.
tell me about your relationship. Oh, well, we haven't had a fight in 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's probably a problem.
So shit goes unresolved, man.
Yeah.
So to correct this, the antidote is okay, if you need some time to yourself to process, then
Hmm.
go take 20 minutes, go for a ride, go out in the garage, go into another bedroom, go scroll TikTok in the bathroom. But you need to come back and you need to agree that we're going to have a conversation about things. Cooler heads prevail. I mean, I like the idea of never going to sleep angry, but that's oftentimes not possible because there's like big problems that go unresolved. And so, okay, maybe we wait until tomorrow or Friday night when we have some more time when the kids are away doing things or, what have you. But we need to agree to sit down and actually talk. And I mean, if the person who engages in the stonewalling is called out for that behavior, then if you want the relationship to work, you're gonna have to not do that, man.
Right.
It's not helpful because it leads to the pale horse, which is death. It leads to contempt. And contempt is when we engage in more robust insults and put downs where we try to show how the person is fundamentally wrong, they're bad, we're never a good fit. This was never going to work from the start because, you didn't heal from a previous relationship, or you're just like your mom, or
No.
oh, all of those things. And we become like mocking and sarcastic and little digs and, the fuck yous under the breath and the bitch and you suck, I bet whatever like that, shit like
All
that.
right.
It
Mhm.
becomes so problematic. And this is what ultimately just kills the relationship. This
Yeah.
brings about death. And so in order to correct that when that's showing up, which it's almost too late, but we need to re-engage with. how do we show love and affection to ourselves? And then how can we extend that to our partner? It's not about bringing the other person down. It's about lifting them up. And if you want them
Hmm.
to lift you up, then you've got to lift them up. The
Hmm.
tide, the rising tide lifts all boats type of
Hmm.
thing. Looking
Tom,
at your
you.
partner's strengths can be a really helpful thing. What are they good at? What do you really enjoy about them? What did you initially fall in love with them for?
Hmm. And that's what imago therapy is based on, is taking back to the beginning of the relationship. What was it that brought you together? So imago talks about, really going back to the beginning. What attracted you to each other? What did you, tell me about when you fell in love?
Yeah,
And then trying to reconnect with those things, because a lot of space over time, we forget things, develop in the middle. So imago therapy is trying to take you back to that stuff. You talk about Gottman, and which is like the cornerstone of couples therapy, but
yeah.
that's kind of imago, is to reconnect ish kind of things. And Tom, you always bring up your three hallmarks of a healthy relationship. And I love this. I use this all the time with people,
Right.
is respect, mutual respect,
Yep.
trust. You got to respect each other, got to trust each other. And then the third thing is the better together,
Yeah.
right?
Better together. We lift each
Yeah.
other up.
Yeah. The two people are better together than they are as individuals. They bring each other up.
Yeah.
They don't take each other down, they bring each other up. They make each other better people.
I mean, the how do you say it? You would know better. The sum of, two parts is greater than the individual.
Hmm. Pieces, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, better together. So yeah, trust, mutual respect. We make each other better
Yeah.
as a result of being together
Hmm.
instead of tearing each other down. So I hope this has been insightful for you guys. Please, like, go back over this. I'll post these in what the notes,
No section, yeah.
the notes section.
Tom, words are hard. I get it.
Yeah, it's Friday, man. It's
uh,
time. I got a full day, but it's good. I get to help people. I'm so blessed. The Four Horsemen,
yeah.
criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, and contempt. These assholes show up and they absolutely destroy, wreak havoc, and they tear the relationship apart from the inside, and then it withers away and dies. How are you going to feed the relationship? You need to show up for one another.
You can identify these in your relationship. Maybe try to start working on it. And it all starts with a conversation, and conversations that don't devolve into fights, right? You set some ground rules with each other. Listen, we need to talk. We need to have an open, honest conversation. But let's do this. And this is another thing that I do with the limited couples I work with, is sometimes the relationship is so contentious, and we talk about open and honest communication, but that can't happen because of where the relationship's at. So you schedule a time once a week, and you have a 30-minute kind of review session. Listen, over the last 7 days, I have to, I'm going to tell you that when you left the kitchen a mess, when you were a half an hour late to our appointment, and when you didn't do the things you said you were going to do, that really kind of made me feel not important, like I'm not respected. You know, Having that open set time once a week to air your grievances. And
Yeah,
the ground rules is we get to air our grievances. Nobody can get mad, right?
yeah.
We're not going to take this information and use it against each other. It's just an honest conversation.
Because you don't have to agree with your partner.
No.
You
No.
can accept that that's where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they feel. And
Mm-hmm.
if that's how your partner is feeling, right or wrong, you don't need to clarify it. You don't need to prove that you're right and they're wrong. You just
Mm-hmm.
need to move towards happiness, which is accepting where they're at. I could see why you would feel, that way. How do we work on that? How do we solve that? What do we need to do
Yeah.
together? I can take responsibility for coming late. I can take responsibility for not cleaning the kitchen. We can do this together, or I can communicate better when I am running behind. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be a half hour late or an hour late, or I'm not exactly sure, I can express that to you, and that way you're not confused or worried, or like
Mm-hmm.
don't know what I'm doing and start to fill in the blanks with what I'm doing.
Right. Because it gets too heavy. If you every time something happens that you have to have this open, honest communication, particularly after a history of fighting and withdrawal and all those kinds of things, that can
Yeah.
get to be a bit much at the beginning. So if you can have this half hour a week, and I've done this with couples, and they're like, "Man, I can't wait till Thursday at 5:30, man."
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Because they know the rules are you can't get mad, you can't use it against them. It's just I'm gonna air my grievances.
Yeah. Hmm. Kind of like Festivus.
For the rest of us. Yeah.
We
All
begin
right,
Festivus
couple.
with the airing of grievances.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Well,
So
your primary relationships are is something that can be the most supportive thing in your life, and it can be the biggest stress you carry.
yeah,
So, it's really worth your time to invest time, attention into your primary relationships.
please.
That's what we live for, right?
You got to feed that. Feed those
Yeah,
relationships. If you're not feeding them, they're going to wither away and die.
right. Much like that fern that's on my patio right now. Damn
Yeah. Sometimes you feed it too much.
it.
Okay. Anyway, thank you, Brad, for today. Thank you guys for listening. I hope this was valuable for you. And if there's something that you want us to clarify or talk about or get into, please send in your comments and questions to questions@therapyonzip.com and we'll answer and we'll do our best at least.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you for leading us today.
Thank you guys. All right. Well, we hope that you have an amazing weekend and we'll see you next Friday.
All right. Take care.